Have you heard the story of the first heart transplant in the southern US? Probably not, but I'm going to tell you a story of how they obtained the heart and from who. On May 24th, 1968, Richmond, Virginia, Bruce Tucker, a 54-year-old factory worker, shares drinks with his co-workers behind the egg packing plant where he works. The men sit on a concrete ledge, exhausted from another long week, when suddenly Bruce falls off the ledge. His head strikes the pavement with a loud crack. Blood pools beneath him as his friends scramble to help. At the Medical College of Virginia, a prestigious institution with a dark secret, Bruce Tucker arrives conscious, able to speak. Now, this next part is important. The business card in his pocket bears his brother William's name and the address of his shoe repair shop, just blocks away. The doctor saw this card, but ignored it. Dr. Hume notes the severe cranial trauma, declaring the prognosis poor. Dr. Lauer sees an opportunity. They have a potential recipient waiting, Joseph Klett, a white businessman whose heart is failing. What follows is not a story of medical miracles, but of medical theft. Without attempting to contact William Tucker, Bruce's brother, whose shop sits mere blocks away, the doctors declare Bruce unclaimed. They ignore Virginia law requiring a 24-hour waiting period. They see not a man with a family, but an opportunity. On May 25th, 1968, at 2:45 p.m., they turn off Bruce Tucker's ventilation. They harvest his heart. They also take his kidneys. They reduce a man to parts. They give his heart to Joseph Klett and save his kidneys for later. William Tucker's anguished words capture the family's horror. When I got to the hospital, they told me my brother was dead. But the funeral director, he pulled me aside. He said, "William, there's something wrong. Your brother, he has no heart, he has no kidneys." The Medical College of Virginia celebrated their groundbreaking transplant, the first in the South. Headlines praised the surgical achievement, but no one mentioned Bruce Tucker's name. No one asked his family permission. To them, he wasn't a person, he was material, he was spare parts. And this wasn't an isolated incident. This institution had been stealing black bodies for over a century. In 1994, construction workers would discover a well filled with human remains, the discarded bodies of black people used and thrown away like garbage by this very medical college. Apparently, they were robbing bodies from graves for use in their anatomy courses. William Tucker's pain is palpable. They took my brother's heart and gave it to a white man, like his life meant nothing, like we meant nothing. The Tuckers sued. Future Virginia Governor L. Douglas Wilder represented them, but the all-white jury sided with the doctors. Bruce Tucker's life was valued at nothing. His heart, stolen to extend another man's life by just a few days, became just another chapter in America's long history of medical racism. The Medical College of Virginia's theft of black bodies didn't start this disgusting behavior. But let me take you back in time and look at some more true horror stories in black history. Hello strangers, welcome back to the Strange Bar and Grill. I'm your host, JP. Today I'll be talking about horror stories throughout black history. Now I just want to be fair and give you a warning, this isn't for the faint at heart. In New Orleans in 1834, in the French Quarter, at 1140 Royal Street, stands a magnificent mansion owned by Madame Delphine LaLaurie, a woman of high society known for her elaborate parties and her so-called grace. Behind the facade lies a chamber of unspeakable horrors. On April 10th, 1834, smoke rises from the LaLaurie kitchen. Neighbors rush to help, but Madame LaLaurie seems strangely unconcerned with saving her slaves. When they ask about her servants, insisting everyone must evacuate, she coldly tells them to mind their own affairs. But the neighbors persist. In the smoke-filled kitchen, they find a 70-year-old woman chained to the stove by her ankle. Her body bears the marks of starvation and abuse. Through tears, she confesses she started the fire herself. Better to die in flames, she whispers, than be taken to the room upstairs. Those who go to the uppermost room, she says, never come back. What the rescuers discover in that uppermost room defies human comprehension. 7 enslaved people, suspended by their necks, their limbs stretched and torn, Men and women starved to skeletons, bearing wounds that speak of systematic, deliberate torture, iron collars with spikes turned inward, chains that have cut to the bone. One man has a hole in his skull filled with maggots, evidence of crude surgical experimentation. Others show signs of having been flayed alive, their wounds festering. The stench of death and decay overwhelms even the hardened rescuers. The New Orleans Bee would report 7 slaves, more or less horribly mutilated, were seen suspended by the neck, with their limbs apparently stretched and torn from one extremity to the other. This was madness and the logical endpoint of a system that declared black bodies as property. Madame LaLaurie had been caught before, when she chased a young enslaved girl named Leah with a whip until the child leaped from the roof to her death rather than face more torture. The authorities fined her and ordered her slaves sold, but she simply had relatives buy them and return them to her house of horrors. After the news broke of her torture house, an angry mob would descend on her mansion, but Madame LaLaurie would escape in her carriage, fleeing to France, where she will live comfortably until her death in 1849. To make matters worse, the tortured survivors are then taken to the jail, not for protection, but for public display. 4,000 New Orleanians file past to gawk at their mutilated bodies, as if they were curiosities rather than human beings. The LaLaurie Mansion still stands today, a tourist attraction where ghost tours make entertainment of black suffering. But the true horror is not supernatural. It's the system that allowed such atrocities, that saw black pain as a racist person's prerogative, black bodies as objects for experimentation and disposal. But even Madame LaLaurie's sadistic tortures pale compared to what happened on the high seas, where isolation allowed even darker depravities. 3 years after LaLaurie's escape, on November 23, 1837, dawn breaks over the Caribbean Sea. HMS Snake, a British naval vessel, spots a suspicious brig on the horizon, a Portuguese slave ship called the Aragante. Captain Alexander Milne, a seasoned officer who has seen many slave ships, boards the vessel and is shaken to his core. He would later write to his brother about seeing actual skeletons with death in their faces, dead children lying about the deck, and the living pointing to their mouths, calling for food and water. Of the 470 Africans forced aboard in West Africa, many of them children, 138 are already dead, but the survivors, especially the children, have a story to tell. A story that British authorities will refuse to believe, but I believe them. Let me take you back to what happened on that ship, days before its torture. They called him Mina, described by witnesses as a yellow man, likely of mixed heritage. The Portuguese sailors force alcohol down his throat. Then they drag him forcefully behind a cell that they've put up to hide what they're doing to him. His half-sister, Sadia, just a little girl, watches in horror. Then came the scream that haunted the survivors forever. Sadia, Sadia, they're killing me. Oh, they kill me. Saru, a girl about 12 or 13, peeks through the holes in the cell. She watches in horror as the sailors draw a long knife across Mina's throat. Blood pours across the deck, dripping through the boards into the hold below, where hundreds of Africans are chained in darkness. Young Nango, trapped below deck, later testified about seeing drops of blood coming through the deck, while someone above cried, "They are killing me!" But the horror has only begun. The sailors butcher Mina's body like an animal. They cut off his head, hands, and feet, throwing them overboard. The rest, they carve into small square pieces. Young Saru, positioned near the kitchen, sees what happens next. The sailors put most of the meat in the large cooking pot meant for the Africans, mixing it with rice, but they keep something separate in their own pot, Mina's heart and liver. And then, these supposedly civilized Christian men feast. The next day, the enslaved Africans are presented with their daily meal, rice mixed with a strange meat. It smells wrong and it tastes wrong. Those near the kitchen know exactly what it is. The meat has human hair in it. It's red, with no bones, and tastes different from anything they've eaten before. Those who refuse are beaten savagely with ship ropes. Many are beaten to death. 8 months later, in Montego Bay, Jamaica British magistrates conduct their own investigation. 24 witnesses testify, Children who saw the murder with their own eyes. Their testimonies are consistent, detailed, horrifying. But Magistrate Finlayson dismisses them as merely the imaginings of traumatized children. He cannot believe that European sailors, Portuguese Christians, would engage in such things. I mean, you're engaging in slavery. The mental gymnastics is insane. Lyndon Howard Evelyn, one of the few officials who believes the children, argues passionately for justice. He points to the consistency of the testimonies, the matching details, the impossibility of such a coordinated lie among traumatized children, but his colleagues prefer comfortable denial. Lieutenant Miller, who took command of the ship after his capture, insists nothing could have happened without his knowledge. He describes the Portuguese captain as inoffensive and incapable of such acts. He bases his opinion partly on 2 English-speaking Africans found on board, but fails to mention that both spent the entire voyage chained below deck and couldn't have witnessed anything. Young Saru pleads with them. I saw it. I saw them kill him. I saw them eat his heart. But Magistrate Facey suggests she's confused, that perhaps she saw them preparing pork. Colley, Mina's half-brother who learned fluent English in just 9 months, angrily retorts that the only pig on board was still alive when the British arrived. They know what they saw. But Colley is labeled a troublemaker because he complained about his assigned master in Jamaica. The investigators prefer the testimony of Bamboo, a 12-year-old cabin boy who claims he saw nothing, even though witnesses place him at the scene. Clearly he was in fear of his life and said what they wanted him to say, but ultimately, they chose a story that preserves their superiority. The case is dismissed. The Portuguese sailors go free, returning to the slave trade. The survivors are forced into apprenticeships in Jamaica, their testimonies buried in colonial archives. Years later, Sadia's bitter words echo. They killed my brother. They fed him to us. They ate his heart. And the British? They called us liars, said we imagined it. But I know what I saw. We all knew. The Aragante uncovers a truth more terrifying than any ghost story. When men believe others are less than human, they become capable of acts that surpass their worst accusations against their victims. The slavers who called Africans cannibals became cannibals themselves. The civilized became savage. The Christians in this story became demons. And now, let me bring you to our present day, where the old horrors wear new masks. October 2022, Taylorsville, Mississippi. Rasheem Carter, a 25-year-old black welder from Fayette, has taken a temporary job at a local plant. He's trying to build a better life, sending money home to his family. All appear to be going well according to his family. But then come the text messages to his mother that would prove prophetic. Mama, me and the owner of this company are not seeing eye to eye. If anything happens to me, he's responsible for it. He got these guys wanting to kill me. His mother Tiffany asks, what's happening? Rasheem's response is chilling. Mama, it's 3 truckloads of white men. They're following me. They're yelling things at me. I'm scared. She tells him to go to the police station immediately. They'll protect him, she says. But protection never comes. Rasheem visits the Taylorsville Police Department twice, seeking help. Each time, he's turned away. His co-workers have abandoned him. The man who gave him rides to work refuses to help him anymore. On October 2nd, Rasheem is last seen at a convenience store, desperately offering strangers $100 for a ride back to Laurel. A worker who would later recall how frantic he seemed, how he kept looking over his shoulder. Please, somebody help me, he begged. They're coming. I just need to get out of here. A trail camera captures him at 4:32 p.m. that day, walking into the woods, and he's never seen alive again. 1 month later, on November 2nd, the first remains are found. But this is no ordinary death. Rasheem's head has been severed from his body. His spinal cord is found in a separate location. Over the coming months, more remains are discovered. His body scattered across 2 acres of Mississippi woodland. Sheriff Joel Houston's response is as dismissive as it is shocking. We have no reason to believe foul play was involved. Sure you don't, idiot. Tiffany Carter's anguish cuts through the official denial. How can it be foul play when his head was cut off, when his body was scattered in pieces? My baby told me they were hunting him, and they killed him like an animal. The authorities claim it was wildlife. They say a man can lose his head, have his spine separated, his remains scattered across multiple locations, naturally. They ignore his final messages, they dismiss his pleas for help, they refuse to see what's plain. This is a lynching in 2022. Attorney Ben Crump's words ring with determination. What we have here is a Mississippi lynching. This was not a natural death, this was murder, and we cannot let them get away with this. But they are getting away with it. The FBI refuses to investigate, local authorities maintain their fiction. Rashim's mother receives word of new remains found, not from officials, but from bystanders with cell phone videos. Even in death, Rashim Carter is denied dignity, his body parts treated as inconveniences rather than evidence of a heinous crime. So there you have it, 4 stories, nearly 2 centuries, 4 examples of Black lives destroyed by the machinery of American racism. Bruce Tucker, his heart stolen for medical progress in 1968, his humanity denied by doctors who saw him as spare parts. The enslaved people of the LaLaurie Mansion, tortured for a wealthy woman's sadistic pleasure in 1834, their agony made into ghost stories for tourists. The Africans of the Aragante, forced into cannibalism in 1837 while their captors feasted on human hearts, their testimonies dismissed. Rashim Carter, hunted in 2022, dismembered and dismissed by authorities who refuse to call a lynching what it is. The methods evolve, the horror adapts, but the fundamental truth remains constant. In America, Black bodies have always been treated as disposable. From the operating table to the torture chamber, from the slave ship to the Mississippi woods, the chain remains unbroken. These aren't stories from the past, they're stories from America's present, written in blood across centuries. Until we confront this truth, until we break this chain, the horror continues. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for today. Let me know what you think of this one in the comment section. If you like delving into some of these historical stories from the past, if you guys want to hear more of this, let me know in the comment section. If you're new to my channel, you watch this from the beginning to the end, then go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, share, and let me know you're a new viewer in the comment section. Alright guys,